Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into the mind of Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore.
Yep. Not for the Hollywood gossip, though.
Yeah.
We're after some real wisdom here. We're going to be looking at her interview on Jay Shetty's podcast.
You mean the former monk turned, wellness guru?
Exactly. It's fascinating because, honestly, Barrymore's insights in this interview, they go way beyond celebrity anecdotes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's about real-life stuff.
Yeah.
Love, forgiveness, what she calls inner work. I think you'll be surprised by how much her experiences resonate with everyone, even if you're not,
Famous.
exactly famous.
It's true. What's really interesting is that she's not afraid to go deep.
Yeah.
She talks about her childhood, growing up in Hollywood,
Oh.
alcohol, even how her views on love have, evolved.
Wow.
There's a vulnerability there that makes her insights even more powerful.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with her childhood.
Okay.
So growing up in Hollywood, she was constantly observing how people acted, almost like a little anthropologist. She even mentions watching an actress do primal screams backstage before going on stage.
Oh, wow.
Like to get into character.
Wow.
Imagine being a kid and seeing that.
It makes you think, we all observe things.
Right.
But how often do we actually use what we see to grow?
That's such a good point. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just about the dramatic stuff. Barrymore talks about being drawn to kindness.
Kindness.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
authenticity. Even in Hollywood, a place known for being, well,
Superficial.
yeah, a bit superficial. She says she wants to be around people who treat everyone well, not just those they want something from.
I liked that.
And, in today's world where there's so much negativity online, her focus on kindness, it's refreshing, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And Jay Shetty actually shares a story about her kindness. Apparently, Barrymore was one of the first guests on his podcast.
When it was new,
Yeah. She took a chance on him when nobody else would. Says a lot about her character.
for sure. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Shetty tells this story about a negative monk at the monastery.
A negative monk.
Yeah, this monk was always complaining, criticizing,
Oh, wow.
and it really bothered Shetty.
I bet.
But then another monk pointed out that Shetty was doing the same thing, complaining about the negative monk.
Oh, that's funny.
Right, it's like that saying,
Judge not lest you be judged.
Exactly, we all have blind spots. Recognizing them, though, even when it's uncomfortable, that's the first step.
For sure.
It's like, if we can't see our own flaws, how can we ever improve?
Right.
And it's like, this leads right into what Barrymore's focusing on now, what she calls inner work.
Inner work.
Yeah, it's about mastering her reactions.
Yeah.
When she feels anger or frustration,
I see.
she's not about to let those emotions control her.
So she's taking control.
Right. It's like, one of the few things we can actually control
It's true.
are reactions to things. Shetty actually puts it this way, the only thing I can control.
Makes you think of stoicism.
Right. And Barrymore is honest about it being a constant process. She even talks about how something as simple as cleaning can be...
A spiritual practice.
Exactly. For her, doing dishes can, shift her mindset.
Interesting. It's like mindfulness, right?
Right.
Bringing your attention to the present moment.
Yeah. It's about choosing how we react to our environment instead of just, automatically reacting.
Makes sense.
And it's not just about, controlling negative emotions. Barrymore also talks about forgiveness.
Ah, forgiveness.
Not just forgiving others,
Right.
but forgiving ourselves.
That's a tough one.
Oh, it is. And she gets really vulnerable here, talking about her relationship with her mom,
Oh, wow.
and admits that self-forgiveness, it's still a struggle.
I can relate to that.
But the key takeaway, she realized that true forgiveness, it's not about getting something back.
Really?
It's a gift, given freely.
Tough but powerful.
It really is. I mean, it's easy to think forgiveness is conditional.
Like someone has to earn it.
Exactly. But she's saying it's more about the giver.
The one forgiving.
Yeah, that feeling of letting go.
Even if the other person hasn't changed.
Right. Barrymore also gets real about her struggles with alcohol.
Oh.
She's clear that she's not sober in the traditional sense.
Reprogram or anything?
Nope, she just made a choice.
To stop.
Yeah, because it wasn't serving her anymore.
So it's more about making choices that align with your goals.
Exactly, taking ownership. Lots of people feel stuck in patterns.
That don't serve them.
Right. And Barrymore describes feeling trapped by her drinking, like it meant she couldn't change.
Then she did.
And it was a huge mindset shift. Suddenly, she believed in her ability to grow.
It's like proof that you can change.
Exactly. And sometimes we need a push. Barrymore tells this wild story about how her therapist actually
Oh.
quit on her
Wow.
because of her drinking. Talk about tough love.
That's intense.
It was a wake-up call, though. It shows how important it is to have people who are honest with us.
Even when it's hard.
Exactly. Sometimes we need that outside perspective to see our own,
Blind spots.
yes. It's like those friends who call you out even when it stings.
Yeah.
Deep down, you know it's because they care.
True.
Okay, so this idea of being honest with ourselves, even about tough stuff, it ties into what Barrymore learned in group therapy as a teenager.
Group therapy?
Yeah, she went to an institution. She describes it as something out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, wow.
But what was impactful were the sessions where families would just lay it all out there.
Oh, wow. Intense.
No blame or judgment, just confronting issues, being vulnerable.
So like a safe space for honesty.
Exactly. And Barrymore says those sessions shaped her life. She learned the power of speaking her truth.
Powerful stuff.
It is. She even compares it to her talk show.
Really?
She wants it to feel like those group therapy sessions, a safe space for real conversations.
I see. Creating that kind of environment is important to her.
Absolutely. Shows how those early experiences still resonate with her.
Makes you think about the environments we create in our own lives,
You mean like who we surround ourselves with?
Yeah. Do we have people who encourage us to be authentic, to be vulnerable?
That's a good question to ask.
For sure.
Speaking of vulnerability, Barrymore tells this story about that Sex and the City episode.
Sex in the City.
Yeah, where the character gets dumped on a Post-it note.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I can't. Don't hate me.
Exactly. Well, Barrymore tells her therapist she wishes she could get a breakup Post-it note like that in real life.
Like clear and concise?
Yep. No drama.
Makes sense.
And her therapist gives her this brilliant advice. Well, you can write it to yourself.
Wow, that's deep.
It is. It's like taking control of your own feelings.
Giving yourself closure.
Right. You don't have to wait for someone else.
I like that.
Barrymore even says, he just took out all the frustration, anxiety, uncertainty. I feel good. I feel empowered.
Makes you feel like you have more control.
And the best part, you can use this Post-it note technique for way more than just relationships.
Anything where you feel stuck.
Exactly. It's about taking back your power.
Choosing how you want to feel.
Yes. It all ties back into that inner work Barrymore keeps talking about.
It's about doing the work yourself.
Not waiting for things to change externally.
Right. Creating the life you want.
Right. And speaking of relationships, Barrymore gets real about the pressure to be in one.
Especially for women.
Yeah, exactly. She was single for 7 years, and she really embraced it.
7 years?
Yep. And she even gets vulnerable with Shetty, asking, how do you tell people to receive love?
Wow.
She admits she's great at giving love, especially to her daughters.
Mm-hmm.
But with romantic love, she feels stuck.
It's a common struggle, I think.
Right. Like she's built walls around her heart, and she doesn't know how to break them down.
That vulnerability is really relatable.
It is. And Shetty's response is fascinating.
What does he say?
He suggests that society has put romantic love on this, unrealistic pedestal.
I see.
And that distorts how we see all forms of love.
Like, we think romantic love is the only one that matters.
Right. But there's love from friends, family, even passion projects.
True. Love takes many forms.
And Barrymore seems relieved to hear this. She talks about how happy she was being single, how fulfilled with her daughters, her friends, her work.
Sounds like she redefined what love and happiness mean to her.
Exactly. And she even shared advice she gave a single friend.
Oh, what's that?
She said, don't waste this time. It's coming. He's coming. And you're not going to get this time back.
So appreciate the present moment.
Yes. Singlehood is not just waiting for a relationship. It's a time for growth, for self-love.
Powerful. It's like each stage of life has its own beauty.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about Barrymore's current goal, mastering the timeout.
Timeout.
Yeah, like when emotions get intense, she wants to learn to step back.
Like, take a break.
Exactly. She was inspired by a centenarian couple.
Wow, 100 years old?
I know. They said that's the secret to their long marriage, being able to walk away before an argument explodes.
So it's about emotional regulation.
Right. Not suppressing feelings, but choosing how you respond to them.
Makes sense.
Instead of letting anger control your actions, create space between the feeling and the reaction.
Interesting, like hitting a pause button.
Exactly. It's such a simple concept, but so hard in practice.
I can matter.
Barrymore actually has breathe tattooed on her wrist as a reminder.
Really?
Yeah, but she admits she forgets to look at it sometimes.
We're all works in progress, right?
Totally. So how do we actually do this timeout thing? Like, what are some practical tips?
Well, one of the simplest and most effective is deep breathing.
Deep breathing.
Yeah, when you feel those emotions rising, just take a few slow, deep breaths.
Okay.
Focus on that sensation of your breath going in and out.
In and out.
Can really help calm your nervous system down.
Makes sense, like hitting the pause button.
Exactly. Another good one is to physically remove yourself from the situation.
Oh, interesting.
If you're in an argument or things are getting heated,
Hmm.
just say, I need a few minutes, and step away.
Just step away.
Go for a walk, listen to some music, whatever helps you calm down.
That's a great tip. Sometimes just changing your environment can shift things,
It really can.
like a reset button.
And even if you can't physically leave, you can still shift your focus mentally.
Oh, how do you do that?
Instead of dwelling on the problem, try to think of something positive.
Yeah.
Something you're grateful for, a happy memory, a goal you're working towards.
That's a good idea. I've also heard that counting to 10 can be helpful.
It can. Anything that helps you create that pause.
Interrupt that reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about giving yourself a chance to choose a more mindful response.
Instead of just reacting automatically.
Right. Like Barrymore says, this is my goal du jour.
She's so enthusiastic about it.
She is. Her commitment to growth is inspiring.
It's a good reminder that we can all evolve and become better versions of ourselves.
It's never too late to learn new skills or challenge our old patterns, you know?
You know, it's interesting how Barrymore's journey shows that connection between our inner world and our outer world.
How so?
Well, on one hand, she's all about that inner work, mastering her reactions, finding peace.
Right.
But she also knows that external things, like societal expectations, relationships,
Those impact us too.
they do. They really do. It's like this constant dance.
Between the inner and outer?
Yes. We can't control everything that happens to us.
But we can control how we react.
And doing that inner work builds a stronger foundation.
So we're more resilient when things get tough.
Exactly. It seems like Barrymore finds inspiration from the people around her.
Like who?
Her friends, family, people who model the behavior she wants to,
Emulate.
yes. It reminds us that we're not meant to do this alone.
Our social connections matter.
They really do. It's
Yeah.
like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, I've heard that one.
It's so true. And Barrymore points out that even the people she admires, they have flaws.
They're not
Nope. Not goody-goodies.
Shh. Just real people.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off, right?
It does. We don't have to be perfect. Just strive to be better.
And a big part of that is self-awareness.
You mean like recognizing our own flaws?
Exactly. Like how Barrymore's always observing people,
Right.
trying to figure out what to do and what not to do.
Learning from others.
And remember how she talked about catching herself being hypocritical?
With the negative monk?
Yes. Complaining about the things she didn't like in someone else.
Oh, that's so easy to do.
It is. We all have those shadow selves, those parts we don't want to admit to.
Bringing those to light, though, that's where the growth happens.
It's true. Facing them with compassion and understanding.
So we can integrate those parts into a more authentic self.
Exactly. It's all connected to that inner work, isn't it?
It is. It's about diving deep into ourselves, facing our fears, insecurities,
And learning to love ourselves.
flaws and all.
Just like Barrymore's realization about forgiveness. It's not just about others.
It's about ourselves, too.
We're all works in progress, deserving of love and acceptance, even when we mess up.
That's a powerful message.
It is. And, this inner work, it's a lifelong process.
Not a one-time thing.
Definitely a journey. Peeling back the layers, uncovering our true selves.
And it's worth it, no matter where you are in life.
Because when we do that inner work, it changes everything.
Relationships, career, health, everything.
It's like unlocking your full potential.
Stepping into your power.
And it ripples outward, too. We become more compassionate, understanding, forgiving.
More present, more connected.
So if you're feeling inspired by Drew Barrymore's story,
Yeah.
if you're ready for your own inner work journey, where do you even start?
Well, one of the simplest yet most powerful practices is mindfulness.
Like Barrymore's breathe tattoo.
Exactly. It's about bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment.
So noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
Right. Cultivating awareness, being present in your body and your life.
There's so many ways to practice mindfulness.
Meditation, yoga, even just taking a few deep breaths.
It's about finding what works for you.
And making it a regular practice.
And it's not just about calming the mind, right?
No. Mindfulness can help us become more aware of our bodies, too.
Our sensations, our gut feelings.
It can be empowering.
Because when we're in touch with our bodies, we can recognize what feels good, what doesn't.
And make choices that support our well-being.
And I love how Barrymore talks about trusting that gut feeling.
Yeah. What does she say?
She encourages her daughters to pay attention to what doesn't feel good, just as much as what does.
That's interesting.
It's about trusting your intuition, that inner voice that knows what's best.
Even if you can't explain why.
Exactly. It can be a powerful guide, especially in relationships.
Like, if something feels off.
If there are red flags, pay attention.
Even if you want to ignore them.
Because sometimes our gut is trying to tell us something important.
Even if we're not consciously aware of it.
It's about trusting those instincts, honoring your boundaries.
And being honest about what you need in a relationship.
Because if you're not clear on your values, your desires,
you can get swept up in someone else's agenda.
And that can lead to heartbreak down the road.
It's about taking time to get to know yourself.
Explore your needs, your desires, before jumping into anything.
And even if you're already in a relationship,
you can still do that work.
It can actually strengthen the relationship.
Because when you're both coming from a place of wholeness, self-awareness,
you can communicate better, set boundaries, support each other's growth.
It's like that oxygen mask analogy, you know.
Put on your own mask first.
You have to take care of yourself before you can truly show up for someone else.
And that creates a fulfilling partnership.
It's not about finding someone to complete you.
It's about two whole individuals coming together.
Supporting each other's growth. It's inspiring to see Drew Barrymore embracing this journey of self-discovery.
Even with everything she has going on.
Motherhood, career, relationships.
She's a reminder that it's never too late to learn, to grow, to evolve.
And even with life's challenges, there's always hope for healing, for happiness.
For finding your own path.
And sometimes, the most profound lessons come from unexpected places.
Like a conversation between a Hollywood star and a former monk.
You never know where you'll find wisdom.
It's true. And it's a reminder that even with all the noise in the world, there are still voices of truth.
Offering guidance, inspiring us, and those voices can be found right here on The Deep Dive.
Speaking of unexpected insights, Barrymore's take on truth and honesty is fascinating.
What'd she say?
She talks about her time in that institution as a teenager, remember?
The one flew over the cuckoo's nest place.
Yes. She says the group therapy sessions there, they shaped her life.
Wow, what was so powerful about them?
It was the first time she experienced real vulnerability, authentic communication.
What she was finally seen and heard.
Exactly. And she realized that speaking her truth, even when it was painful, it was freeing. It released her from shame and guilt.
And created a sense of connection with the other families there.
They were all going through similar things, being honest about it.
That shared vulnerability, it's powerful.
It is, and Barrymore has carried that with her.
In what way?
She wants her talk show to have that same feeling, you know?
Like those therapy sessions.
A safe space for real, honest conversations.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows how much those early experiences shaped her.
It's a reminder that we don't have to pretend to be perfect in life.
It's okay to be messy, to be human.
Especially in today's world with social media showing this filtered reality.
It's easy to feel like we're the only ones struggling.
But we're all in this together. We all have challenges, flaws, things we're working on.
And being honest about that, being vulnerable.
That's how we connect, how we support each other.
Barrymore really embodies that authenticity.
She's not afraid to show her true self.
It makes her so relatable.
It's okay to not have it all figured out, to be on a journey.
The journey of growth.
And that's a journey worth taking.
No matter where you are in life.
And it's often more fulfilling when we share it with others.
Like those families in the group therapy sessions.
Or like us here on The Deep Dive.
We can learn and grow from each other.
That's what makes life meaningful.
Absolutely. You know, Barrymore also brings up how society views men and women differently.
Differently. How so?
When it comes to relationships.
New relationships.
She talks about how her father left before she was born.
Right.
And she just accepted it.
But then she noticed that society puts more pressure on women to be in a relationship.
Especially as they get older. It's like a double standard.
It is. Even someone like Drew Barrymore feels it.
It makes you think about how those expectations can affect us.
Subconsciously even.
It's a reminder to be mindful of the messages we internalize.
From family, culture, media.
We have the power to question those messages, to define our own version of success, of love, of happiness.
It's about creating a life that feels authentic to you.
And that brings us back to Barrymore's goal of mastering the time out.
Ah, yes, the time out.
Remember that centenarian couple?
The one who said it was the secret to their long marriage?
They said it's about choosing to pause, to breathe, before reacting.
It's a powerful strategy.
Instead of letting emotions control you, step back, observe.
And then choose how you want to respond.
Barrymore is so committed to making this a habit.
It's inspiring.
It is. It shows that personal growth is a process, not a destination.
We can all benefit from that growth mindset, being open to new ideas.
Challenging ourselves to be better.
And sometimes the most profound lessons come from unexpected places.
Like a conversation between Drew Barrymore and Jay Shetty.
It's true. Wisdom can be found anywhere.
And it's a reminder that even amidst all the chaos, there are voices of truth.
Offering guidance, inspiring us.
And those voices can be found right here on The Deep Dive.
It's true. And you know something else that Barrymore talks about that's really interesting?
What's that?
It's this idea of paying attention to our gut feelings.
Oh, interesting. What does she say about that?
She's been encouraging her daughters to not just focus on what feels good, but also to pay attention to what doesn't feel good.
I see. Like a warning system.
It's about trusting your intuition, those subtle cues.
Even if you can't logically explain them.
It's like having an inner compass,
Guiding you toward what's best for you.
even if it goes against your logic or your ego.
Trusting that inner wisdom, even when it's hard,
Makes you wonder how often we ignore those gut feelings.
dismiss them as silly or irrational.
We tend to prioritize logic over intuition.
But Barrymore is reminding us that there's this deep wisdom within us.
If we just listen,
And she seems to be embracing that wisdom more and more.
making choices that align with her values.
Even when those choices go against what society expects.
It's inspiring.
It's a reminder that personal growth is a journey, not a destination.
And we're all capable of it.
Now let's talk about another experience that shaped Barrymore. Her time in that institution as a teenager.
Oh, right, the one she compared to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Intense, right?
But she found something transformative there. The group therapy sessions.
She said those sessions shaped her life forever. What was it about them?
They created a space for families to have these raw, honest conversations.
About what led them there?
It sounds like a place where vulnerability was encouraged.
Not about blame or judgment, just open communication.
And for Barrymore, who lived so much of her life in the public eye,
It was probably a relief to have that safe space.
to be her true self without judgment.
It sounds like it really affected how she approaches relationships and communication now.
She's always been drawn to people who are open and honest.
And she values those qualities in herself, too.
It's that authenticity that makes her so relatable.
It's a reminder that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love.
Our imperfections can be our strengths.
It's such an important message, especially today.
With all the pressure to present a perfect image,
The truth is, we're all in this together.
we all have challenges, flaws, areas where we're growing.
And by being honest about that, being vulnerable,
We create space for real connection.
Barrymore really embodies that.
She's not afraid to show her true self,
It's a reminder that it's okay to not have it all figured out.
to be on a journey, learning and growing.
And that's a journey worth taking,
Absolutely. And it's often more fulfilling when we share it with others.
like those families in the group therapy session.
We're like us here on the Deep Dive.
It's a reminder that we're all connected, that we can learn from each other.
And that's what makes life rich and meaningful.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And speaking of shared experiences, Barrymore makes this interesting observation about how society views men and women differently
Differently. In what way?
when it comes to relationships, especially romantic ones.
Oh, interesting.
She talks about how her father left before she was born,
Right.
and she just accepted that as reality.
But then she noticed that society often holds women to a different standard,
It's like there's this pressure on women to be in a relationship.
especially as they get older.
Like it's not okay to be single.
And that pressure doesn't seem to apply to men in the same way.
It's a double standard for sure.
Even Drew Barrymore, with all her success, feels it.
It makes you think about how those expectations can shape our choices, our self-worth.
Even subconsciously.
It's a reminder to be mindful of those messages we internalize.
From our families, from culture, from the media.
We have the power to question those messages.
To define our own versions of success, of love, of happiness.
Absolutely. It's about creating a life that feels true to you.
And that brings us back to Barrymore's current goal of mastering the timeout.
Ah, yes, the timeout.
Remember that centenarian couple who inspired her?
Ones who credited their long marriage to being able to walk away from arguments.
Exactly. They said that was their secret.
It's about choosing to pause, to breathe before things escalate.
It's a simple but powerful strategy.
Instead of letting emotions control you, you create space.
You observe your feelings and then choose how to respond.
And Barrymore is so enthusiastic about making this a habit. She even has that breathe tattoo as a visual reminder,
It's a great reminder that personal growth is a process.
not a destination.
We can all benefit from adopting that growth mindset.
Being open to new ideas, challenging ourselves,
And sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected sources.
like a conversation between Drew Barrymore and Jay Shetty.
It's true. You never know where you'll find wisdom.
It's a reminder that even amidst all the chaos and noise of the world, there are still voices of truth out there.
Offering guidance, inspiring us to live more meaningful lives.
And those voices can be found right here on The Deep Dive.
Beautifully said. And it's a great reminder that the deep dive is all about finding those voices, those hidden gems of wisdom that can help us on our own journeys.
Exactly. And sometimes those gems come from a former monk turned wellness guru interviewing a Hollywood icon who is just as open about her struggles as she is about her successes.
It's proof that we can all learn from each other, no matter our background or our path in life.
That's what makes the deep dive so special. It's a space for connection, for exploration, for discovering those shared human experiences that unite us all.
And sometimes those shared experiences involve primal screams, breakup post-it notes, and the profound wisdom of a centenarian couple.
It's true. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
And who knows what other gems we'll uncover on our next deep dive adventure.
I can't wait to find out. As Drew Barrymore reminds us, there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover about ourselves and the world around us.
Well said.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another insightful concept that Barrymore brings up.
What's that?
It's this idea of paying attention to our gut feelings.
Oh, yes. She talked about how she's been encouraging her daughters to really tune into those feelings,
Not just to focus on what feels good.
but also to pay attention to what doesn't feel good.
It's like having an internal warning system.
Exactly. It's about trusting your intuition, those subtle cues that tell us when something isn't quite right.
Even when we can't logically explain it.
It's like having an inner compass guiding us towards what's truly best for us.
Even if it goes against our logic or what our ego might be telling us,
It's about learning to trust that inner wisdom, even when it's challenging,
it makes you wonder how often we ignore those gut feelings.
or dismiss them as irrational or silly.
We live in a society that often prioritizes logic and reason over intuition and feeling.
But Barrymore reminds us that there's a deep wisdom within us that we can access if we're willing to listen,
And it seems like she's embracing this wisdom more and more,
making choices that feel aligned with her values.
even when those choices go against societal expectations.
It's inspiring to see her constantly questioning and evolving.
It's a reminder that personal growth is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
And that we're all capable of that growth.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another powerful experience that shaped Barrymore. Her time in an institution as a teenager.
Right, the one she described as being like one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
It sounds pretty intense.
It was, but amidst the challenges, Barrymore found something truly transformative.
What was that?
The group therapy sessions. She said they shaped her life forever.
What was it about those sessions that had such a profound impact on her?
Well, she talked about how families would come together and have these raw, honest conversations.
About what led them to that point?
It sounds like it was a space where vulnerability and authenticity were not just accepted, but encouraged.
Not about blame or judgment, just open and honest communication.
And for Barrymore, who had spent so much of her life in the spotlight, it was probably a relief to have that safe space.
A place where she could be her true self without fear of judgment.
Exactly. And that experience seems to have really stayed with her.
How so?
She talks about how she's always been drawn to people who are open and honest.
Who are willing to be vulnerable, to share their struggles.
And she clearly values those qualities in herself, too.
It's that authenticity that makes her so relatable and magnetic.
It's a reminder that we don't have to pretend to be perfect to be worthy of love and connection.
In fact, it's often in our imperfections that we find our greatest strengths.
And our deepest connections with others.
It's such an important message in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with images of perfection on social media.
It can be easy to feel like we're the only ones struggling, the only ones with flaws.
But Barrymore's story reminds us that we're all human.
We're all in this together.
And it's okay to not have it all figured out.
To embrace our imperfections and allow ourselves to be seen for who we truly are.
Exactly. And Barrymore's story shows how powerful this vulnerability and authenticity can be.
not just in our personal lives, but also in our professional lives.
She mentioned wanting her talk show to feel like those group therapy sessions.
A safe space for real conversations and unfiltered honesty.
It's a beautiful vision.
It speaks to the power of creating environments where people feel safe to be themselves.
Share their stories and connect on a deeper level.
And that's something we can all strive to do in our own lives.
Okay, I love how Barrymore's insights are all interconnected.
Right.
We've talked about everything from her childhood observations to inner work to forgiveness.
And now we see how all those experiences have shaped her approach to communication and authenticity. It's like a tapestry of experiences.
Woven together to create the wise and inspiring woman she is today.
It is. And I think a big takeaway is that even someone like Drew Barrymore faces similar challenges to what we do.
Even with his fame and success.
She struggles with self-doubt, forgiveness, finding love.
She makes mistakes, she learns, she grows.
It's a reminder that we're all human.
And we're all in this together.
It's a comforting thought.
It is. Even amidst life's chaos, there's always hope for growth, for healing, for finding our own happiness.
Beautifully put. And it's a reminder that even in Hollywood, there's a depth of wisdom in humanity.
And that's what the deep dive is all about. Finding those nuggets of wisdom that can help us on our own journeys.
Exactly. And sometimes those nuggets come from a former monk talking to a Hollywood icon.
It's proof that we can learn from each other, no matter our backgrounds.
That's what makes the deep dive so special.
It's a space for connection, exploration, discovering those shared human experiences that unite us all.
And sometimes those shared experiences involve primal screams, breakup post-it notes, and the wisdom of a centenarian couple.
You've got to love the unexpected twists and turns of life. Who knows what gems we'll find on our next deep dive?
Excited to find out.
Me too. As Drew Barrymore reminds us, there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover about ourselves and the world around us.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up, let's touch on one final insight that Barrymore shared. It's this idea of taking a time out when things get heated.
Oh, right. She talked about that.
She was so inspired by this centenarian couple.
I remember. The ones who said that was the key to their long marriage.
Yeah, stepping away from arguments before they blow up.
Such a simple concept.
But so powerful.
It's like that saying, don't go to bed angry.
Right. But it's more than that.
It's about recognizing when you're just not in the right headspace to talk things out.
Exactly. Barrymore's really focusing on mastering this time out.
Not just for arguments, but for any intense emotion.
Exactly. Anytime those feelings start to take over.
She even has breathe tattooed on her wrist to remind herself.
A visual cue.
To pause, take a breath, create space before reacting.
And she's honest about still working on it.
Which makes it even more relatable. Right?
Totally. We all struggle with emotional regulation.
It's human.
But it's inspiring to see her commitment to mastering this.
It shows us that we can all learn and grow in this area.
Even small changes can make a big difference.
I think this timeout idea could help everyone.
In relationships, at work, even just with family.
Learning to pause before reacting can prevent so much conflict.
It's about recognizing that we don't always have to react right away.
We can step back, cool off, and then engage in a healthier way.
Exactly. It's not about avoiding conflict.
It's about approaching it in a more mindful and productive way.
I think so.
This deep dive into Drew Barrymore has been incredible.
It has.
It's amazing how she takes her own experiences and turns them into these universal truths.
About life, love, growth.
What are some of the key takeaways for our listeners, do you think?
Well, self-awareness is huge.
Barrymore's story really highlights that.
Looking inward, confronting those shadows, learning from our experiences.
Realizing we all have blind spots, make mistakes, don't have all the answers.
It's about doing that inner work.
Taking the time to understand ourselves, make choices that align with our values.
Taking ownership of our lives, becoming the authors of our own stories.
I love that. Another takeaway is embracing vulnerability and authenticity.
Barrymore is so open about her struggles, her imperfections.
It's inspiring.
It reminds us that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love.
In fact, our imperfections often lead to our greatest strengths.
And our deepest connections.
And of course, Barrymore's insights about forgiveness are powerful.
That idea of forgiveness being a gift we give freely.
Letting go of resentment toward ourselves and others.
Moving forward with compassion.
Recognizing that we're all human, we make mistakes, we all deserve forgiveness.
Well said.
This has been a real treat.
It has.
Who knew we'd find so much wisdom from Drew Barrymore?
It shows that wisdom can come from unexpected places.
We can learn from anyone.
And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Finding those unexpected insights, those nuggets of wisdom.
That can help us on our own journeys.
Exactly. And sometimes those insights come from a former monk and a Hollywood star,
Proof that we can all learn from each other.
no matter our backgrounds.
That's the beauty of it all.
It's a space for connection, for exploring those shared human experiences that unite us,
Shared experiences that might involve primal screams and break-up Post-it notes.
and the wisdom of centenarians. You gotta love it.
You do. Life is full of surprises.
It is. So on that note, we'll leave you with this. What area of your life could benefit from a time out?
Maybe it's a relationship, your work, or even just your own thoughts.
Take a moment to think about where you could create more space for mindfulness.
For compassion, for choosing a more intentional response.
It takes effort, but the rewards are worth it.
More peace, more harmony, more joy.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Drew Barrymore.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.